Unfiltered Band means yes, another episode of Unfiltered coming your way here and now. This one officially goes down as episode number 192. You could jump on board the Unfiltered Revolution at Casey Stern on Twitter. Jump in the bio, get on the YouTube channel. Of course, where most of you are equal opportunists that we are, on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. Also, the places you can get the Gibby Show. And thank you, Unfiltered Band, as we welcome in my guest here for EP 192. And welcome back to the show. Longtime successful manager in the big leagues, even more successful about being a funny, genuine human. And he is the host of the Gibby Show. He's also a dog sitter. We'll get into that as well. Of course, talking about my guy, Jon Gibbons. Gibby, appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for doing this again. How you been, man?
Hey, Case, man, my pleasure. It's been a while. It's one of my favorite shows to do right here. But hey, this is like the 192nd show you've done.
Too many. Yeah.
Hey, damn, you're good, man. You're really good.
Some of those are solo because I don't know 192 people, so that's why you just go around of like the only 7 people in the world I like, and then you just keep going round and round to all of that. You'll find that as you keep booking guests on your show. But how many have you done so far?
That's a good question, man. I don't even keep.
Come on, man. You got to at least keep it. Well, so, yeah, producer, somebody keeping count. Somebody keeping.
Yeah.
Count.
Oh, yeah. Somebody. Yeah.
We got maybe at least 20 at least now, right? I would.
Well, we started at the end of April. No, at the end of March.
Yeah.
Show
March.
Yeah.
You and I, if we do math, you and I will be here a long time, trying to figure out how many. So I'll tell you some math I know, and that's the 30 seconds you got to pay off sponsors. Those are important for all your podcasts. BetOnline, your number one source for all your sports betting needs, latest odds, lines, matchup reports, basketball, baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place all your wagers, live betting, favorite casino, and card games. They're all available right from your phone. So head over to the website or use your mobile device right now and sign up and get in on the action today. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, it's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. And I want to get started here because there's a lot I want to get into, but I was saying this to you before we got started, and I saw you tweeting about it a couple of days ago, and I was crushing it yesterday. And I want to creep into the mind of a manager because I said this yesterday. This is the way I put the title of the episode. We're all Bruce Bochy yesterday. Watching what he had to deal with through his eyes and what he called, he'd been around a long time, as you know, managed against him. One of the worst calls he's ever seen. What was your vantage point? Because I want to get into the rule, but that play itself and just how bad of a job by replay was that to take that away and then give the White Sox essentially a win because of that block at the plate?
Hey, well, you know what, Case, it was kind of ironic that that's the Buster Posey rule, man. And Buster would, play with Boch out there. It's like the baseball gods came back or something. No, I tell you what, it's actually kind of embarrassing, that a major league game that's so much riding on it could, Texas Rangers are leading their division, right? And they go on. Maybe Houston catches them in one game matter. You never know, right? And it maybe propels the White Sox into it. Actually, I would have been embarrassed to even challenge it. Being an ex-catcher, I'm going, I can't check. Come on, man. But it just makes no sense. How about revealing who the umpiring crew that was up there in the New York? Because I think more than one had to sign off on it, I would think. But that's the problem we've created. That becomes a judgment call. That it's kind of it's a kind of a vague rule, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but
no, it is. It's arbitrary, right? I mean, we don't really know what the rules are. And I want to ask you about this because, from a backstop perspective, and you go back and you're right. I mean, saying in jest, and it is irony that this is the Posey Cousins rule. And I said this yesterday. And look, Buster, Hall of Fame catcher, but he probably was out of position on that play that actually caused all of this. I remember going back to spring training. We're in the middle of spring training. They instituted this. And I remember when I was at MLB Network Radio doing the spring training tour at the time for SiriusXM, asking every catcher, and there wasn't one catcher that wanted this rule. As a guy who understands that position, how frustrating is it for the guys playing the position, Gibby, who are used to collisions? They understand that's par for the course. They know that's my ownership of this plate. How much would that screw you up in the head on plays coming in from the outfield, Gibby, trying to figure out what's allowed and what's not when Heim is clearly behind the plate, for example, on that play 2 nights ago?
Yeah, when you're trained one way, when you're from a young kid, if you're a catcher, all up till you get drafted and everything like that, you used to playing the game one way, right? You line up, you set up on a certain spot, part of the plate, and you react to the ball. and your job is to keep that guy from scoring, right? And you know what? There's been many. I think it's to keep guys from getting hurt, man. Obviously, but my problem is how many guys actually get hurt. But what happens is it. You know, now everything's turned into a sweep tag. You know, the catcher's got to move out, catch it out here. But even that play the other night, from the way I viewed it, the throw was kind of came into, you know, the foul side of the line a little bit anyway. So he was in a really good spot. I mean, if he was on the other side of the bag or where they kind of want you to be, you know, I mean, he's not going to be able to catch that ball, and he gave him plenty of plate. But that's it shouldn't even matter, you know. Catch the ball, keep the run from scoring. You know, we talk about we're trying to make the game better by more stolen bases, more excitement, all that. Yeah, it can be a boring game sometimes, a lot of times. So that's one of the exciting plays, you know.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And by the way, we've
know?
taken other ones because the takeout slide at second base, which look,
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't like, but you certainly because, you know, spikes, there are ways to do it, ways not to do it. But that hard slide that we took out and making it like some kind of a neighborhood, you know, situation at second base is another one. We're taking away these opportunities. MLB loves all the controversy, but sometimes you need those moments in the game, and rivalries and things of that nature develop. Unfortunately, it's life, right? For just like in the paint in the NBA, right? By the rim, they're not happening at the three-point line. It all comes from all of that. How do we fix this though? Because here's the biggest problem I have, right? Because I don't like the rule either. But if a rule is there, a stop sign, I'm just thinking of the dumbest thing I could think of. A stop sign, right? When you first drive, you understand, okay, I don't have a choice anymore. If I don't want to stop, I have to stop. And if I don't stop and there's a police officer there, I could get a ticket because my job when I see that sign is to stop, right? That simple.
Right.
I know the rule, even if I don't like it. Do we even understand this rule? Does every umpire see the rule the same way? That's to me the biggest problem, Gibby. We don't even know what the hell the rule is.
Exactly. You know, yeah, and you know what? Like you said a minute ago, that you know, you hope it doesn't come down to a playoff spot or a huge. You look back. I can remember we got in 2016. We snuck into the last day of the season for the wild card game, right? And this was the year they instituted the play at second base, and we had a play earlier in the year where it could have been costly. But if it's not cut and dry, say, okay, you know, like you can, if you replay something, you see, well, he tagged him or he didn't tag him, right? Okay, where it becomes judgment. Well, did he give him enough of the plate to slide this or that? You know, I got ejected a few times because there was plays that were replayed, and we'd look up at the board and say, there's no way they're going to overturn this, or they have to, whatever. And then they wouldn't do it. You're looking on the big board in your stadium. And I'd ask the umpire this, you know, they turn it over to New York. They have nothing to do with it now. I'd say, who the hell's up there in making that call? I want to know because, you know, whether they got a grudge against us.
Of course.
They, whoop, go. But nobody ever knows, right?
There's no accountability, Gibby. There's no accountability at all.
But I wouldn't want to be an umpire to have to make that call, but that one is bad.
But the replay's there but Gibby, the replay's there to protect them. This should be about when the call is. Look, in the other case the other night, Pedro Grifol said he challenged, you know, all things, whether or not it was a tag. You know, who knows what was said and what was not. But in most cases, you're talking about now with this, like, you know, inconclusive to overturn nonsense. Like, to me, all I want is the call right. I don't care what the hell was called on the field. And when you've got a fraternity of buddies up there not wanting to say buddies down there on the field did something wrong, why can't we get dudes from MIT who just understand video and teach? I'm serious. And say, hey, look, this is what the rule is. And just show me and tell me if you think it's right. Because if I tell you, right, and that's a brethren and a teammate, because that's what umpires are, right? We understand. I mean, they're all going to back each other up. If one dude up there, you know, let's say, you know, whoever it is, person A has been working with person B downstairs for 20 years, he's not going to overturn his call because it's going to make his numbers look bad. I don't want that. I don't care what the call was on the field. Get the damn call right.
That's the whole idea behind it. You know, the rule does say that if you get the ball in plenty of time, you're a catcher, then you can block it, right? But okay, so everything's like, well, did he get it in time? Did he give him enough play? It's a joke. It's, you know, it's kind of like our society. We've gone soft. Now we're going to turn in, you know, in this athletic field. You know, it's a case. it's almost like winning. That's about winning. You stop a run. You win in a game. Everything's celebrated now with the home runs hit. The crazy hats and the dancing. You name it. It's like it's turned into almost like a circus where the main focus is winning. I thought.
Well, I
And
don't
it's
mind. I don't mind having fun. It's a different age, right? So this is like we're not
oh,
playing
I know
Atari
that.
anymore. So I don't mind. I don't mind because I'm in the middle, right? Like I don't mind. And I think the celebration and all that stuff, to me, time and score matters. Like I don't want a guy high stepping down the sideline as a wide receiver when you're down 35 points, right? So it's like,
Right, but that's what they do.
yeah, they do that to me. But the part that bothers me is that you can't have fun in the game if we're always talking about the things that are wrong that can be fixed. And that was clearly another one. I want to get to it. There's a lot I want to hit. Let me get to Toronto and get to the Jays next because I don't know how much you want to put on one thing. It's like anything else, right? There's always a lot that's gone wrong. It's not just Alek Manoah didn't do what we thought he would. You and I both like him a lot. I know you've had him on, I believe, on the show. I love the dude, love the attitude, the personality. How much has what we thought and he could still be in his career, but what we thought he would be this year, right? And him not being that, how much of a trickle-down effect is that when everybody in the room is looking and saying, that's our dude at the front of a rotation? Do you put credence into that being part of what's kind of trickled down? How do you explain the Jays this year?
Well, yeah, it's hard to explain them other than I'm thinking maybe they're not as good as we thought they were, but they're still good enough to get in the postseason. They're still right on the fringe of a wild card, right? Yeah. And then of course Tampa ran away with things to kind of really screw things up. But where they're lucky is Barrios has pitched really well. Kikuchi's, they both found themselves. They could have been a real problem if those two had pitched like they did last year. But as far as Manoah, who knows why that happened? I think their problem right now is they just don't hit. They just don't score
and
like
how
everybody
is that with the
expects.
names they got, Gibby? How's that? Why? I mean, you watch this team. Why?
Yeah, I've been there. I don't. It's hard to explain sometimes. Other than a lot of times, hey, you're facing good major league pitchers too. But if they don't all hit their norm, which everybody expects year after year, right? Then that's what you run into. If they're doing that, then everything's fine. The big mystery, I guess, is Vladdy Jr. Not hitting home runs. I don't even think he has a home run at home in a one of the best home run hit parks in baseball, right? Always has been. So that's kind of the mystery. And with runners in scoring position, you could stick that on a lot of teams, right? When teams struggle, well, the first stat they go to is, well, we were 1 for 15 with guys in scoring position, whatever. Okay, but that's what happened. But so if they've been kind of in that drought for a while, that's been kind of what's happened to them. And so that's what's glaring because I think they pitched really well. I mean, well enough to win many more ball games. But that's got to change. You know what? They got too many good hitters in there. Unless the fact that, hey, maybe they're not. This is one of those years, it's going to be a battle just to get there. Maybe they're not quite as good as everybody thought. Everybody's predicted possibly the World Series. But I think they're still good enough to get in. There's no doubt in my mind. And that's going to change. They just had a big series down in Miami. Coming off a tough start of the road trip, Baltimore, then to Texas. They won 2 out of 3 down there in Miami. Miami was hot as any team in baseball, right? Now they go home against Oakland, I believe it's this. So now they're at home against the teams. Now it's a chance to make up some ground. But it's been one of these, and why that happens, who knows?
I want to. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Gibby. Go ahead.
No, that's it. No.
I was going to ask you. I want to creep because it's not just Toronto. I mean, there are a lot of teams. And look, I sit there and, as you know, and look, I mean, certainly, I'm talking to a Met legend, and I always say that to you. I mean, I pay a lot of attention to what's going on with them and what Buck is dealing with in a team that's kind of gone off the rails. You think about San Diego that has kind of struggled, and St. Louis and it's been terrible. All these in their own rights are very, very different things. But I want to go inside, and this is one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about, the mind of a manager, because you hear, I'm sure, when you're managing, and now you hear it a lot afterwards as you see people talk about it. Everybody has their own idea of what a manager's job is, right? Of where the manager deserves credit or where they deserve blame. I want to go to when a team is struggling. How did you try and handle And what was the way that you learned as you came up as a player, a coach, and then manage, that is kind of the way a manager, quote unquote, should handle a team that is going out there every day, like the Mets are currently right now, and struggling the crap out of it? Everybody looks dejected. Guys look like they want to cry at the end of a game, look like they can't figure it out. That grip in the bat too tight. Take me inside the mind of a manager, of behind the scenes, really how you try and handle that kind of a situation, how difficult it is.
Well, Case, I mean that's where I think managers are made, right? I based my style and from coming up, always playing baseball, the guys I played for, what I liked, what I didn't like, what made me tick. And when times get tough, and even my first go round in Toronto, before all the wild card stuff, but the Yankees, the Red Sox would pull away, right? And now's the time a manager's got to stick his chest out. He's got to take the shots for the team, right? And enough of the talk. I hear, well, team meetings, this and that, because it's just like raising kids, right? Sometimes the more you talk, the less they listen, right? But there's times to be firm and all that. But you know what? Your job is to deflect from those guys. Now, if the team's going through the motions and they're packing it in, that's different, But nobody realizes more, right? That we did the guys out there on the field. They know what's going on. They know if they're struggling as a team or as an individual. And then you say the Mets, and then you add on it's New York City. It's that much tougher, right? So the manager's got hey, no more, let's save all the talk, right? The team motivational stuff. They don't need that. They're tired of hearing you anyway. And you know what? I think try to paint a positive picture, take the heat, take the bullets for them. And then you know what? In the end, like I've always said, and it's reality, it's the truth. If you're good enough in the end, you'll be there. And if you're not, you won't. That's just a fact. You play 162 games. If you're good enough, you ain't going to sneak in, right? And but it may be a disappointing year, and then you get fired, right? So,
is it impossible with the money that the guys in this sport are getting made? It more than other sports. It's professional versus college, big difference. But now it's Major League Baseball, Gibby, versus everything else. Is it possible with today's generation of player to get in players' faces behind the scenes and have them actually take it in a way that they respond positively?
Yeah, I think it is if you set the tone early. But there's got you got to be respecting. You have to respect them. They have to respect you, right? But the people that just talk all the time, people, we all get tired of that.
The eye
right?
wash. Yeah, the eye wash.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. But if you set the tone early and you're fair, and you tell them what's going on, I think you develop that kind of relationship where if time comes where you need to, you need to get a little tough on somebody, which we all need, right? Every now and then, you don't have a problem with it. But if you just fly off the handle, or you don't, if they think it's all about you and not about them, the team, that's when you're in trouble. But yeah, even now in saying that, it is different. They used to be able to rule with the iron fist. You could send guys down. You could do things that way. Those days are over. But I think still everybody needs a wake up every now and then if you're being fair about it.
How much are you relying? Because and I think of it this way, because no matter what you say or do now on social media, right? And it's not just for managers and coaches; it's for everybody. I mean, you're going to find people who have something wrong with it. So, the Mets, as it's an example, we're losing a bunch of games in a row, and Buck comes out and says he's proud of his guys because they're not quitting and they're fighting. And then everybody in the New York media was ripping him for saying, "How could you say you're proud of the guys when they're failing, when they're not pitching well, when they're having mistake, right?" And all of that. You're trying to your point, buffer, and I get that, steady that ship, because to me, I've said one of the reasons why Bob Melvin, I think, and I say this with love about him, has so much success is because it's like he doesn't have a heart rate. Like, I don't think he's the same every time I've ever seen. It doesn't matter, and this is a player. Players respond to that because you're not getting all jumpy and crazy when it's bad and rah rah when it's good. I mean, you're their balance, right, in the force, if you will. How much, though, do you need to rely on your leaders? How much were you relying on guys in your clubhouse that maybe would you bring a couple of them into your office instead of talking to a team in a meeting, Gibby, and have them kind of give that message? How much does that trust have to be their baseball manager today to the leaders in your room?
Well, yeah, you've got the players got to police themselves. If a manager, it goes back to us, managers and coaches talking all the time. If a manager's got to do all that all the time, or a coach, you're in trouble, right? And there's certain guys on the team, your big dogs, the guys making the most money, the guys that have had the best careers, guys are going to naturally gravitate towards them, right? And if you got a good one, you're in good shape. If you don't, you're in trouble, right? That's just a fact. But they, they're in that room together. You're there every day to get, 162 days. That's the way it works. But now I don't know if it's funny when you call guys in and things like that. See, I think if we get, so what happens is if panic sets in, and let's just take the Blue Jays for example, right? If they were 5, 6, 7 games out of the last wild card spot, things are going. They're still over 500. They're like a half game, or they were, whatever. I don't know what they are today. Maybe we're not playing the way we expected, but we're right there, man. Maybe we ought to be looking at it this way. Hey, we ought to be pretty damn happy where we're at right now, And then come the trade deadline. The GM pulls off a trade that something can give us a shot in the arm. But it's by no means a failure yet. I mean, it's a failure if you don't get in because of the kind of team they have. But sometimes we get focused on everybody panics, and then the manager falls in line. The front office isn't happy, so it trickles downhill. Then the players think you're phony anyway, and you're taking your marching orders from upstairs. Then you're toast, right? But even like you said about Buck, right? See, as funny as that sounded to people, I think Buck was doing the right thing. You know what? It distracted from those guys because you mean to tell me Scherzer, Verlander, and all those veterans, they don't know what's going on right now.
With you.
I'm
with you, Gibby. I'm with you.
Yeah,
you don't got to
guys,
tell.
Right?
You don't got to tell those guys, and the job is of those guys in that room to police that room. Buck's job is to kind of keep semblance of balance through ups and downs of a long season. Deal with the roster that he has. And at the same time, and I want to kind of expand this to all managers now because everybody deals with this. I mean, look, I watched a situation, and I'll just give one example, where years ago, Dave Roberts, I'm sitting there and covering the World Series, and Doc had to wear, and I love Kike Hernandez, he's a really talented player, but he had to wear, and this is during the Bellinger MVP kind of a Bellinger, putting Kike in for Bellinger in the 3-hole against, I think it was David Price, after Bellinger had gotten a knockoff and when Price had come in relief earlier in that World Series. And why? Because clearly the analytics team, of which the Dodgers, by the way, it's a large part of why they're successful. So I understand there's good and bad with everything, but this was not a lineup that would be any manager's choice at that point, because managers also have eye test and wear, like you guys do, what's on the field. How much did you notice as your managing career went on, and how much then even worse is it exponentially now for managers to make decisions on their own, Gibby? And how difficult is that for some of these guys? They're never going to say it out loud. They can't, because they're going to get fired or wear it publicly, and you can't wear out the people who are paying you. But how difficult truly behind the scenes is it for a manager in today's game when they don't have autonomy about the kind of lineups they're putting out every day? Because none of them do.
Oh, yeah. I think it plays right into, because that's clearly what happens in most places. I'm not sitting there listening, but I know what's going on. We all know. That's one thing I made a point, and I was kind of, and the guys, the GMs on my teams know that I was going to make the decisions, right? We'd talk things out. But you give me the players, I'll make the decisions. I'm happy to discuss it. We can come up with some better strategy, but I'm not going to dictate anything on what a number tells me. I'm smart enough to know, I think. But nowadays it's clearly different. If you want to get a job, you almost have to say, all right, whatever you guys want. But I think that erodes some of the authority that the manager actually has, because, and so if he comes, he wants to get tough with somebody or something, they can drop on you. You're just a puppet up there anyway. I mean, I don't know how legit is this conversation type thing, and so it's hard to put a finger on everything that's going on, but when you play every day like you do, there's the ups and there's downs, there's the tension, the conflicts you have with these guys, the good times, but you got to expect some crappy times, just like you got to expect some good times, but I wanted to go back real quick. You were talking about
go ahead.
The Padres and the Mets.
Yeah, go ahead.
I view those two teams totally different, right? I think I see the Mets as they got some more of those hard nosed, guys that have been, the Verlanders, the Scherzer. I look at the Padres as kind of a bunch of renegades, right? And they're out of control, whatever. And they made a run last year to get in, and it had a decent playoffs. This year they're another disappointing team out there. Bobby's going like that. I'm sure Bobby wants to rip his hair out.
Oh,
Man,
I'm sure, but he never shows it. To his credit, never shows it.
No, but I wish he would one time for credit. Because I see, I just view the teams differently by the personnel, right? That's fine. That's fine. But the Padres are more talented, I think.
Expectations were high on both, though. Expectations were high for both.
Oh yeah. And well, they met in last year, and the Padres beat them in the playoffs.
Yes, I remember. Thank you for reminding. Yeah, I know. Scherzer gave up 7 runs. By the way, also not Buck Showalter's fault. Just being fair.
Yeah, but you think like Buck's going to call in Showalter, Verlander, and say, get on him about something or
no,
your performance or something?
No. But I think so. I'm going to tell you about a small situation yesterday in a game that I saw. And then I want to hit something else. It's just an example of, I'm not old school or new school. I'm not analytical or eye test. I think the problem we have in this sport is everybody's got to be shades of gray with everything. You have to take in all the knowledge. You have to be willing to use what's in front of you, what's in the past week, what's on the back of the baseball card, and all of those sorts of things, right? But I'm a little old school in some ways. And one thing that I think would have probably bothered you, and I want to ask you, that drove me a bit crazy yesterday. So Mets have a kid, Francisco Alvarez, a very talented young catcher, one of the best prospects in the league. He's got 12 homers. He played the first 2 games of this series. He did not play yesterday. Mets are down 2 runs in the 9th inning, and Buck sends him out to pinch hit. He's the 3rd guy up, hoping that one of the first 2 get up, and then he can go and tie the game, right? Ryan Presley, who's difficult to hit. First 2 get out. So here comes Alvarez, and he's the last out of the game. Everyone in the clubhouse, they're showing the shots on SNY. Look like not really, but they look like they're going to cry. I mean, the guys are wearing it because they know the expectation, what they expected from themselves as a team. They're about to be the 4th team in the league to lose 40 games, and you should be at the top 4. They're in the bottom, right? And here's Alvarez. And he is ear to ear smiling, joking around with Maldonado, who I'm sure he respects, who's very well respected. Maldi's behind the plate. And I'm sure they're catchers, and I get it. They may be from the same area, and I get it. But I hated it. I hated that when I'm looking behind him in the dugout and those vets are just dying, that this kid who, I get it. Every at-bat, he's had 120 whatever at-bats in his life. Every at-bat is probably a dream for him. The problem I have with it is that I don't trust that when he goes back in the dugout, someone in that room, the way they've been, and I mean this, is going to pull him aside. And that's not Buck's job. How would you handle looking at a situation like that where a young kid, probably something any of us could do, he's early 20s, he's a kid, but he joking around with the catcher before he's about to go out on 3 pitches, which he did to end a loss?
Oh yeah, that I'm like you. That would just eat me alive, right? And that may be a job for a player, but if I'm the manager too, I got it. Because we talk about the manager's got to take the heat for the team, right? Yeah, okay. I'm talking to the media every day, and if I'm going to cover for your ass, I'm sure you know what, you're going to be as serious as I'm going to be. It better mean something as much to you as it means to me if I'm going to protect you, right?
Yeah,
that's where. So I might ask, you know what, come here, hey kid, you know what? Well, you're living your dream. You're blah blah blah. The optics are bad, man.
Yeah, that's perfect word.
Yeah, exactly. Let's you know what? It's got to mean something to you, because who gets fired? Buck gets fired. This kid's probably go on to have a great career, right?
Right.
But it's not just, well, I got to save my own ass, so I better say something. No, it's just right and wrong. There's and you get these people that especially Mets fans, and they pay a lot of money to watch these teams. They live and die with these teams. Sometimes you got to take it as serious as they do. That's what this is all about, I thought.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Look, if it's his first AB and they're coming in off a lot of, it's okay. I got no problem with that. But to me, that was just, it's an example. And they had a shot of he's laughing, and in the background, Jeff McNeil looked like he's gonna poop himself because they're dying with it, right? And I get it. That's the juxtaposition, right, of a kid who's just starting his career. Look, he doesn't need to win right now as much because he's just trying to play, right? And he's getting his first sniff as a major leaguer. Those kind of things just bother me, and it brings me to the last thing on baseball. And I want to get a couple bug you about some non-baseball stuff because I love just chatting with you in general and talking about dogs. But the old school versus new school. managers, I've had managers over the years, and I remember, and this is within like the last 5 years, tell me that they've seen the percentages change where they used to think maybe it was like 80% were old school, where managers could look across the field and understand if somebody going to hit somebody in the right spot, right? Or somebody going to, throw somebody up and in or whatever, all the unwritten things in the game. And they thought it was like 80-20. But now it's probably swung more to new school. You've got a lot of younger guys. You've got a lot of recently former players. You've got a lot of analytically driven guys. You've got guys who have started in player development, Gibby, and then gone down to, you got a couple of those guys, right, who are now down, and they've come from the upper level of the architecture of a system. Are we a dying breed now of guys who were the old school manager? I mean, how do you see that old school versus new school when you watch the game the way it's managed right now?
You know what? To be involved in our game, okay, what era you came from, you got a lot of the same qualities, right? But there's no doubt times have changed. But when I see like Dusty Baker winning, I see Bruce Bochy back and Texas goes to the top,
Tito.
Buck, team won 100 games last year. We're talking about Bobby Melvin, That's what bothers me when I see the Padres will go, come on, Bobby, because they want some of these old timers, man, to be successful, and he is, in the.
Oh, that's not his fault.
But
sure.
No, it's not. But hey, the catcher you're talking about for the Mets, he'd have fit right in out there in the San Diego, man. Nobody cares if he's laughing.
But that's swag, and that's part of. But do you think nowadays that was there a feeling when, and let me ask you, when you used to look across the field, even if you weren't, I'm sure you had some managers that you were friendly with and knew, some maybe you didn't like. That happens. We're all people, but you respected, and then some maybe you didn't really know. But there's always that thing where I feel like managers from the other side, even if they're not tipping a cap, they kind of understand and get that the other guy's doing what they're doing, and there's that mutual feeling. Is there still that with the manager fraternity right now?
You know what? I hope so. I think that, like I said, there's, guys are being forced, to run the game the way that, the people up top want, right? But we can't totally eliminate analytics and all that, because there's a lot of good in that, numbers and things like that. And I used to base most of stuff off numbers. I'd look at numbers, I could tell who hits good against whatever, but then you add more to it. So you almost you might see. I guess I recognize it more when I'm sitting at home watching on TV, going, "What are they doing?" It's easy for me to do now, right?
Oh, sure, I'm not out there, couch, yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's got to be the front office's plan before the game or something. I'm going, and I bitch and moan about the game all the time, right? But these guys also want to be major league managers, and they want to keep their job, and they want to do things like that. So there's a lot of the guys that are getting hired for those jobs now. That's where they come from, so they don't know any different, right? And you get a lot of ex-players that are getting hired now too, but they're I think they're a little more flexible. They understand it, and are we a dying breed? Yeah, a little bit, but I think I do think the games can maybe waking up a little bit and say, hey, maybe this is a little bit slanted in how we're doing things, because not just because they disagree, because you're going to get all those number guys. They're never going to think they're wrong. They're never going to think, they're going to think their way is the only way. But I think even the fans get tired of it sometimes, and
look, if you're not looking down on the field, use as an example. I remember years ago, cover when the Red Sox won the World Series, and down there on the field, and Steve Pearce, who wins the MVP of the World Series, who only played against lefties, is playing against righties. Why? Because he was getting hits. So Alex leaving him
hot.
So right. So it's like, at the end of the day, I think managers sometimes, I don't want to say they do the FU to the guys above, but they're gonna do what they got to do because they understand, and that's the job. Almost very much like the job of a parent, or like a parent of pets. And I say that because I gotta delve into this story. So when I reached out to you last week about having you back on, you told me you were dog sitting. And you've got some puppies. Now I don't remember. Are they what kind of dogs? Were they labs? Labs.
Right? 2 labs. Yes.
Okay. Now yellow labs, black labs. What kind of mixes? What kind of labs we got?
Oh, I got a chocolate lab and a red lab.
Nice, gorgeous dogs. Yes.
Yeah, they're like the originals anyway.
Yeah, both of those, and they're smart animals as well.
They are not the two we got.
How old are they? How old are they?
One's coming up on 6 months this weekend. Okay. The other one's closing in on 4 months.
Okay. And you watched them alone.
Can't you tell?
Yeah. So your better half was not there, and you watched them alone for how many days? Were you by yourself with them?
Oh, it was good 3 or 4. It's like,
okay.
Oh my God.
What? Take me inside. How more difficult for you? Put together a lineup, figure out how to beat the Yankees back in the day, or trying to figure out how to make it through the night with 2 dogs who are driving you nuts? Like, what was the hairiest adventure? Take me inside the house.
Oh gosh. Hey, Case, I've got 3 children, 3 wonderful children. They're all adults now, but it's like I can remember back then, of course their mom did most of the work, but I'm like, this is difficult, man. I wish my old man had told me, right? But he didn't do anything. He was back when, the mom did everything, right? And I thought, dang, this is difficult. My poor wife, all this blah, blah. But I tell you, that is so much easier than dogs. Maybe it's my age. I'm 60, just turned 61. Maybe you're not supposed to have labs in there. Maybe you're supposed to have those little kittens.
Were you walking them on leashes? Were you taking them for walks?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we don't take them out front much, because there's a lot of deer running around.
You don't want that.
No, but occasionally we do, but we get this little fenced in area in the back. Okay. It's like, but down here in San Antonio, it's like 110 with 120 degrees.
They get hot. You got to get a lot of water. You got to give them a lot of water because they're going to get hot. But do you have a trouble like wrangling them to get them in the house? Like, what are you doing bull and matador to try and get them in the? How are you getting them? How are you getting these 2 dogs? I'm just imagining you running around your lawn or your backyard trying to get these 2 dogs.
Case I plead with him, but that doesn't work, right? So I was watching that a show where a mother dog or a mother bear or something, they grab him by the back of the neck, right? And then they come. So I got the point. Hey, I'm going to try this. They come right along. So things have got.
Were you watching for advice? Were you watching that for advice?
No, I don't. My wife's a wildlife photographer, so I think I was watching some videos or something. I go,
okay,
that's the key. Hey, real quick though, you brought up Steve Pearson a while ago, right?
Yeah.
I got a great story about.
Go ahead,
Pearson,
bring it. Let me hear it.
He was with us when we traded him to the Red Sox, right? That year he was the MVP. We were playing a game down in Houston. I think it was earlier that year. Yeah, and Charlie Morton's pitching for Houston, right? So Piercy's not playing that game. And who else wasn't? Anyway, another one of our big hitters wasn't playing that game. And Morton's dealing, right? So we get, it's probably about the 7th inning. He's still there. We're down by 2 runs. So we're down at the bottom of our lineup. So I tell DeMarlo Hale, our bench coach, I said, hey, go find because I looked at the analytics meeting. I looked at the results guys on our team had against Morton in their career, and I think Piercy had like 2 or 3 hits, and he was the only one that had any hits, So I said, I don't know why he wasn't playing to begin with. Maybe it's something that's my stupidity. But so anyway, I said, hey, go find Piercy. If we get a guy on, he's going to hit, right? So DeMarlo, first he couldn't find him. Then Piercy comes running around. Coming out of the dugout. He goes, "What do you need?" I said, "Hey, if this guy gets on or so and so gets on, you're going to hit." And he goes, "Oh no." I said, "No." I told him. I said, "Hey, you're the only one that's ever hit Morton." He goes, "No. That's back when Charlie wasn't throwing very well."
Yeah. During his Phillies days or the Braves, early Braves days. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said DeMarlo, I told DeMarlo, okay, hey, get somebody, get the other guy, right? Whoever that was. So we didn't even send Piercy up there. We sent the other guy because he was, no chance. Next thing you know, we traded him to Houston. I mean, the Red Sox. He's the MVP of the World Series.
Yeah, and crushing everybody. By the way, I think he played for every team. Did he play for the Yankees? He played for like every other team in the American League East.
Team in the East. Oh yeah.
Seemingly played everywhere. Let me.
And one of the best guys you will ever meet, man. A great competitor. One of the best human beings you'll ever meet.
I was just going to ask you that because let me close on this. So there are, you've got like 2 careers, right? So as a player, there were probably teammates that had tremendous impact on you, whether it be showing you the ropes, guys who you respected, guys who you learned from, guys who you had fun and hung out with. As a manager, it's a little bit of a different role because you're more like a father figure in a lot of these cases, right? Give me a player or two that through your time you just had a different level special relationship with, manager to player, because it's not teammate to teammate. It is harder to build that relationship beyond the field because look, you're the boss, you're the guy who's making the right. I mean, there's a little bit of a difference there. What guys stand out to you and why in that category of kind of just a different level special relationship when you were a manager with your players, Gibby?
Casey, I've been fortunate, man. I've had some good ones, right? And really, I've been lucky that way. But Josh Donaldson's one of my all-time favorites. We had our battles, man, but we understood each other, and we still keep in touch. That kind of thing. Mark Burley, Burley, another one of the best human beings, the easiest. If you want to be a good manager, Burley's your kind of guy, man.
And if you want a quick day before the pitch clock, if you want to be out of there soon.
Exactly. He was one of my all-time favorites, Kevin Pillar, those kind of guys. There's I could go on and on. Roy Halladay, Justin Spire, I had a good, even in, Roberto Osuna, who had some problems, was like a son to me in a lot of ways. It's in Aaron Sanchez, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If there's that respect, if you treat them like men, and you know what, if they understand you got their best interest at heart, and it's not all about you, the manager, everything's fine, and if you're honest with them, even if you get something that they don't want to hear, they'll listen to you. It's when you got that, that they think you're a phony and you're not on their side. You bitch and moan, you throw them under the bus when things go bad, like we talk about a couple of teams now. And then you're done. But if it becomes more of a friendship, but you have to have that fine line still. That now you got it made. You may not win it all. You may end up getting fired anyway. But you know what? You enjoy the seasons more, your career. You look back and you develop some great friendships.
You got to feel for Donaldson, obviously. You mentioned JD. You getting booed. I mean, he's look, I've seen booed in New York. I mean, he getting it bad. That's tough to come out of. I know he's built different. I know that, but that's got to be hard for him to deal with. You feel for him from afar watching this?
Oh yeah, but he's getting older. I mean, he's had a tremendous career, but he's getting older. I mean, it's still a young man's game. So he's not going to be what he was a few years ago. It's impossible, right? If there's one guy that could take the heat up there, he'd be at the top of my list. Yeah. But it's got to be crushing it. I don't care how tough you are. Nobody wants to listen to that, But the problem with their team now is Judge. Judge isn't in the line. But you know what? The problem with the Yankees, everybody gets hurt all the time. All this state-of-the-art medical stuff. We got all these training techniques we use now. Everybody's hurt all the time. Stanton's hurt every time you turn around. It's like that's what kills that team.
I leave you with this, and you know how much I respect, love you, and I appreciate this so much. I leave you with this advice. Don't ever let, as a dog owner, my dog is almost 15. Even if these dogs stare at you and say, I don't want to eat that, don't ever feed them human food, because once you do, they will never go back. I have been feeding my dog human food for about 14 years. Because about a few months in, we had a head-on collision where he basically was looking me in the eye. I'm going to starve. I'm not eating this garbage. And if you don't feed me something else, you're going to have to explain to your kids you have no dog. And I've been feeding him regular food for about 14 years. And beyond it being even costly, I sit there and I'm cooking chicken for a golden retriever and feel like the biggest jackass on the planet Earth. So whatever you do, don't feed these dogs human food. That's my advice to you. Okay.
Hey, remember though that golden retriever likes you more than your kids like you.
Yeah, I mean they like him more than they like me too. I mean I should just leave them with each other and go on vacation. Be careful.
I think human food's cheaper than the dog food, man. So you might be ahead of the game there.
It's certainly cheaper than the vet. We know that. So keep them healthy. Gibby, appreciate you. Thank you, buddy.
Case, you're the best, man. Anytime, pal.
Anytime you want to join us on the Unfiltered Revolution, you could hop on board all the different ways. Enjoy it on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. Enjoy the Gibby Show and check that out as well. We are Unfiltered, and we are, as always, presented by our good friends at BetOnline.